The Ries Report with Al and Laura Ries.
War in the Boardroom, Chapter 1. Reality versus Perception. Left-brain management deals in reality. Right-brain marketing deals in perception. The typical management approach, they love facts and figures. They want to study the situations, the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, the threats, the so-called SWOT analysis. Management also thinks that the mind is simply a mirror. That if we change the reality of what our company or brand is about, then that will easily change the perception the consumer has about our company or brand. Well, that's just simply not true. Changing a perception is the most difficult job in marketing. Because the mind is like wet cement. Once you put your footprints in cement, they're there forever. The same with brands. Once you have a perception in the mind, it's there forever and very difficult to change. Strongly held perceptions are very difficult to change. What's a Hyundai? A Hyundai is a car company that's doing great because it's perceived as a cheap car. So what did management do next? They're getting themselves into trouble. They're going to offer a luxury car. In fact, they have one, the $40,000 Hyundai Genesis. The reality is, it might be a great car. The problem is with the perception. People perceive Hyundai to be a cheap brand, and they're not going to spend $40,000 for a cheap brand. Even worse, Hyundai's going to launch a $75,000 Hyundai Equus. Hey, honey, I'm getting you a Hyundai instead of a Mercedes. You say that, you're likely to be sleeping on the couch. What's a Volkswagen? Well, in the mind, it's a cheap car. It's a small, cheap, reliable car. That's what made the Beetle such a huge success. So what did management do next? Again, they got in trouble. Volkswagen said it was trying to take on Mercedes-Benz when it launched the $100,000 Volkswagen Phaeton. The reality was, it was a great car. The reviewers loved it, but the problem was the brand name, and the perception of Volkswagen just didn't go with a $100,000 price tag. And the results were a disaster, a total disaster. In 5 years, Volkswagen sold just 3,354 Phaetons in the U.S. market. Such a pity. Certainty versus uncertainty. Management always knows what's going to happen. Marketing, on the other hand, is never quite sure. This is something many CEOs say. This is our surest move ever. I mean, they know it's all about reality. They study the situation, so they're sure of what the future will bring. Of course, this was said by Roberto Goizueta, the CEO of Coca-Cola, when he was announcing the release of New Coke. New Coke was their surest move ever? Whoops. Well, why was he so sure? Well, they did the studies. They did the blind taste test that proved without a doubt that New Coke tasted better by almost 3-to-1 than Old Coke. What he forgot was the perception of the brand. That in the mind, when they saw the cans, Old Coke won more than 4-to-1. The best idea I ever had. Well, another CEO said this. That was Dave Novak, CEO of Yum Brands, KFC, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell. He said this when he launched Crystal Pepsi, the first clear cola. That was your best idea ever? Well, the reality was pretty cool, in fact. It tasted like Pepsi, but it was clear. Unfortunately, the problem came with the perception of seeing a clear cola. It just tasted watery somehow. That was also the problem with Miller Clear. The reality was that it tasted exactly like regular beer, except it was clear. The problem came with the perception of the brand and the product. It looked and tasted watery. Walmart tried to get fashionable, tried fashion. This is an 8-page advertisement in Vogue magazine. 8 pages. They had several fashion moves, in fact. They made a serious push into fashion. They hired a top executive away from Target. They opened an office in Manhattan's fashionable fashion district. and they even presented a fashion show at New York's Fashion Week. What was the results? Dismal. Upgrade style falls flat at Walmart. Well, of course. Walmart is known for being cheap. It's the world's largest retailer, but it has no credibility in fashion. Just because you change the reality is never going to change the perception Walmart so strongly has in the minds of consumers. Everybody knows the problem. Everybody knows that Japanese vehicles are more reliable than American vehicles, right? Well, in a recent study, the most reliable cars were Buick and Jaguar tied for the most reliable? Well, that might be the reality, but the perception of those two brands in particular is quite different. And fixing that perception is job one, not necessarily the reality. Does it matter that they've attained this great reliability? No, of course not, because the real job comes in changing the perceptions. Because in the mind, everyone knows that Japanese cars are more reliable, the most reliable, in fact. Reality versus perception. Perception always wins. And I'm Laura Ries, and that was the Ries Report.